Hi there, welcome to our online webinar for the Byron Arts and Industry Estate Draft Precinct Plan. My name is Christy. I'm a planner here with Council, and I've got Bob Van Eersel with me here, our major projects planner. So we're here to answer your questions today and go through a quick overview of the precinct plan itself. Just to let you know, we're also recording this session so we can make it available afterwards, and we'll be communicating using the Q&A tool, so you should be able to see that on your screen. So if you have any questions at all today, just be popping those questions in those, and we'll be running some polls for you as well. So I'll hand over to Rob now.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, first some housekeeping. The information's there on the screen. Obviously, if you're having trouble hearing us, turn the sound up. As Christy mentioned, the Q&A tool is what we're going to use to answer questions and converse today. Bear with us a little. This is all new technology and a new way of engaging. Pre-COVID, we would have been out in the field and with the ability to talk face to face. So this is what has to happen in the meantime. So it might be an opportunity to just check that things are working for you. So if you can click on the Q&A tool and maybe just type in your name and where you are so we can see that that's working, and we'll be able to converse that way. Okay, bear with us with this technology. We'll see if we're actually using.
Definitely got them up here.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we can see your questions and the like. Get rid of that. So let's start. Sorry, more technology.
Oh, great.
I did say this was new for us, and we there we go. So, as always, we'd really like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land that we inhabit. The Bundjalung Byron Bay, which includes the Arakwal people, Widjabul and Midjinbul people. And it's particularly relevant to acknowledge the deep understanding that Indigenous culture has to place and to the land, and a deep commitment to the place. And I suppose in that context, we are here at Council working on a range of place plans, including the Arts and Industrial Estate Precinct Plan, as a sort of our way of trying to help shape the future of place. So what we'll talk about today is just an overview of the draft Arts and Industry Estate Precinct Plan, the process we've gone through to get to where we are. A brief description of what's in there and some of the recommended actions, items, etc., including a bit of a discussion about council-owned land we know as Lot 12, which is very important for the future of the area. So it's as it says, your opportunity to ask questions. So as we go through, so please use that Q&A opportunity to ask your questions, and we'll do our best to get to them as we move through. First of all, just so we can get an idea of who's here and the relationship to the place, we want to just start a quick poll. Make sure I'm pressing the right buttons. Basically just looking for the relationship, your relationship to the Arts and Industry Estate. So hopefully you can see that and have time to an opportunity. Just let us know. Do you live there? Is it a place of work for you? Are you a landowner or a business owner? So we get just a bit of a feel for the cross section of people. Thank you for that.
It hasn't got me up for it. This is supposed to be like a post. So the questions should be.
Okay. Okay, and our first little glitch of technology is we need to figure out the best way for us to see the questions as they come in.
Can't see the poll.
So. Okay.
People are answering, so it means
so
that some people are
some
able
people
to
can't
see
the poll, but others are answering the questions. There's people who frequent. It's obviously a busy place. There's some owners and there's some people who live there. That's good. So let's just move on to a brief summary of where we're up to. We'll share those results. Okay. All right. Did you get that to move again? Okay. The arts. So the arts and industry estate we all know and love. Obviously, it has a history going back to the late 1970s, really, mid 1970s. It started out like most little country towns, as it was back then, as a industry, a real place of work on the edge of town. But as we know, it's grown to be much more than that over the time since then, and it's evolved into a really diverse and vibrant mix of a wide range of land uses and activities, opportunities, and it's really quite a lot different from a traditional industrial estate. Arts, as the name would suggest, are a big part of it. A lot of the industry has morphed, if that's the right word, to more creative type industries. There's quite a bit of retail and obviously quite a few people who are living in the estate, and that's sort of been an evolution over time to where we find ourselves now. That brings lots of great things in terms of vibrancy and diversity and really exciting opportunities and prospects. It also brings with it some issues, not the least of which are sort of functional issues of traffic, parking, and how people get around. So the Arts and Industry Estate Precinct Plan was started as a way of sort of dealing with that, to provide a bit of a blueprint for the future, to build on the best things of the industrial estate, arts and industry estate, to deal with the functional issues and to just sort of outline the direction to go. So we started that over a year ago now with a sort of a community launch that was pretty well attended, which was really just to raise the flag and say, hey, this is an important piece of work for council to figure out this blueprint for the future. As part of that, there was opportunity for online feedback that was open for quite some time. So we were able to pick the brains of people in the community to understand the day-to-day issues, as well as some of the key visions and ideas for the future. And we got very good feedback from a lot of people about that. That led to what we call the inquiry by design process. So as this is sort of a place planning, master planning exercise, what we devised was a sort of a way to do that in a short space of time, rather than spending months and months devising the plan. We were assisted in that by some very good urban design and sustainability consultants, firm by the name of HIP v Hype. They're from Melbourne, but they had some local team members in terms of architects, communications people and the like. And we also worked with a stakeholder group of people with a strong affinity and connection to the arts and industry estate. We were a combination of residents, business owners, landowners, people who shopped and worked and lived there. And that inquiry by design process was an intensive sort of 2 days locked in a room, trying to unpick all the various themes and issues and come up with solutions, ideas and projects and opportunities for the future. And that's where we ended up with what is now on public exhibition, which is the draft precinct plan.
So we'll look at some of our questions now.
There is one saying, is this being recorded? And the answer is yes, it is being recorded. And at the end of the forum today, we will have a link that we can send out to people to be able to access the recording and look at it at their leisure.
Can we tick more than one box?
Yeah, I think we're past that.
Oh, that's
and
it.
some didn't see the poll, unfortunately.
So we've got
Anyway.
no more questions at this stage. Click and then, yeah, that's
No.
okay.
Okay, so
And I'm gonna add
yeah, I'm not.
into that.
No, I don't. We were going to do just a quick summary to see how many people were really familiar or just briefly familiar with the precinct plan. But perhaps if we just go through a brief summary of it, those of you who are familiar with it will sort of bear along with us, and those who aren't might give you a bit of an overview for reading after this. So, in a nutshell, what the draft precinct plan contains, it's like I say, a blueprint with a shared vision and a direction for the future, so we can move forward both on public projects and private projects in the same direction. And there's a range of guiding principles that will help all of us in doing that. Headline ideas, which it says that a bunch of ideas for how to help us all move in that right direction. And those ideas came from the wide input from the community, from site investigation, and from sort of more rigorous assessment and detailed unpacking of those things at our inquiry by design. So the objectives and priority actions are broken down to be sort of easily understandable into the following 5 themes. Mobility and access, which I mentioned before, I pretty much guarantee all of us know the functional issues that are at play in the arts and industry estate to do with just how people get around and to. And parking, of course, is a big part of that. Creative economy, which is a real strong direction for how the arts and industry estate has evolved, and the economy generally in Byron Shire. Land use, because it is so diverse and mixed, we need to get a handle on how to build on the best land uses out there whilst protecting the future direction. Environment and climate, which of course is critically important everywhere, not only here. And then the built form, character and density, so how private development and public development will look in the future and contribute to heading in the right direction. So within the draft precinct plan, you'll see there's a whole range of priority actions identified under each of those themes with some strategies and the like, and I won't go through these in a lot of detail. But in terms of the creative economy, as I said, it's about building on what's evolved there in a way that really allows this place to stand out as a strong capital, if you like, of the creative economy. There's identified need to look at the branding of the arts and industry estate. Is that still the right label, for example? Is there a better way to leverage what's the best part of there for the future? There's 2 pieces of public-owned land in the arts and industry estate which are vitally important to how it develops in the future, which we'll talk about a bit more. One is Lot 12, which is council-owned land, fronts Bayshore Drive, opposite the IGA shopping centre and just south of Habitat. And then, of course, council has our works depot sort of smack dab in the middle of the arts and industry estate. And so that's a very strategic piece of public land as well. And so the inquiry by design looked at a range of different ideas for how key opportunities could be leveraged for those particular public lands. Mobility and access I've talked about a little bit already. How we deal with the functional issues and how we in particular look at how we can create alternate and active transport ways in terms of bike paths, footpaths and a whole way, so people aren't as totally reliant on cars as they are, but not fooling ourselves that we can do without cars in the industrial estate. So we need to work on ways to ease the functional issues of traffic and parking throughout the industrial estate. I'll come back to a couple of items on that in a little bit. Environment and climate, it's the actions there, pretty much self-explanatory, trying to get a better landscape vision for something that's cohesive throughout the arts and industry estate, that provides some shade as well as some amenity, and then also coming up with a strategy to really push the zero waste and 100% renewable options throughout the estate. Land use is, again, mentioned before, building on the good work that's already done out there, building on things there. In item 1, you see the multi-purpose blue-green corridors. You might be aware that there are a number of sort of diagonal drainage lines that run through the estate, and there is an opportunity to actually clean those up and to activate those with pathways and cycleways so that they actually become usable spaces linking different parts of the industrial estate, arts and industry estate, without having the need to just travel on all the roads. We also need to look at a planning implementation plan, because most of the estate still retains its old industrial zoning, even though it's a long way from a traditional industrial site. So we need to come up with a better way to manage future land use through the zoning regimes. Built form, character and density is important to get a better connection and better building outcomes, so that there's just a better form of building and a better interaction between public and private spaces in there. Density controls will need to look at clearly to go what type of buildings, what scale of buildings do we want through there, and also the Lot 12 and the council depot sites have the potential to provide real exemplars in that to lead the process forward. So a very, very brief overview of what's in the draft precinct plan. It's worth a read, so we can get your views on the detail that's in it. So we've got a question here. Can the view of the estate from St Helena be taken into account when looking at built form, character and density? Yes, indeed, is a quick answer, because it is from that distant view of St Helena, it is a a very prominent site, and we need to have a think about how that continues to look. One of the ideas about the unifying landscape ideas is to soften what is currently a fairly harsh environment, both when you're in the site and when you're outside of the site and away from that looking in. So yeah, good point, and one that should not be missed. Greening of roofs of buildings integrated in the surrounding landscape is a fantastic idea there, and should play a part in that integrated landscape concept for the whole, for sure.
So that's it.
So
We can move on with the next.
So that's it for now. What the precinct plan also has is a couple of quick win projects that are identified in there, and one project that came out of the inquiry by design process to deal with the functional issues is looking at a one-way traffic trial in part of Centennial Circuit, and you can see the map there. The red is the area suggested for a one-way traffic trial. The idea of that is basically it comes out of part of the problems with traffic flow is just simply the width of the road is restricted when you've got parallel parking on both sides of Centennial Circuit, and then you have two travel lanes. It really only takes one truck or even a smaller truck to come through to really block traffic and the like. And so we're looking at ways to deal with that. And one of the things council has resolved to trial is to implement this one-way system as for a trial period to see if it flows better. Looking at the section from Brigantine Street to Wallingbar Street. And we are, council has resolved to implement that. We are working on the plans to do that at the moment. And one of the things we want to make sure we do is manage where the parallel parking on both sides of the roads is, so that access into driveways of sites, into and out of driveway of the sites, it can be managed to make sure there's no disruption there. Apart from parking, the plan for the depot site. There is no formal or detailed plan for the depot site right now. What I should stress up front is that while there was a previous resolution of council to look at alternatives for the depot site, council as a whole has not formally made a decision that it will relocate the depot site just yet. It's an active investigation, and it's somewhat at arm's length of this precinct plan, but council first needs to come up with an alternate site for the depot and make a decision that happens, and then we need to do some more structure planning with the community about what happens instead. Question here, would it make sense for council to subdivide lot 12 and sell individual lots instead of giving one developer everything? Again, whilst council has decided to look into the best way to achieve a sort of innovation and sustainability hub on lot 12, as yet there's no decision about how that would be delivered. So we're in the process and there's upcoming workshops soon with councillors to feed in some of the responses from the exhibition process we're in the middle of now, and to look at exactly what kind of uses can constitute a sustainability and innovations hub on that site and how that can best be delivered. So no options have been either locked in or locked out at this stage. And so, you know, in terms of that question, yes, it might still be possible to subdivide and dispose of individual portions within that lot 12. It might also be possible to look at it as a whole. We haven't got that far yet. So on the screen, you can see the location of lot 12, which yeah, it just shows it's a strategically important site that kind of links quite a few components there. So the exhibition process is one of a few different inputs into looking at the future of lot 12, and it'll be very useful for us to get your ideas and opportunities for how lot 12 might really progress as a sort of international exemplar for how to do really good innovative development. Do you see a possibility of a co-housing project for lot 12? Again, I suppose I just reiterate, nothing's off the table. In the plans that are on exhibition, which I point out, were developed to really just put some ideas out there for starting the conversation about what might happen. There are some ideas within those plans for different housing forms, be that artist in resident, might be cooperative housing, that the German model of Baugruppen, however you say that. So again, ideas are what we're gathering at this stage, nothing locked in, nothing locked out. And what we are starting the process of is sifting through those ideas to figure out which ones will be the best fit for the future of lot 12 and the future of the arts and industry estate. So as we said, there is this is being recorded, and there'll be a link available on the council's website after this, soon after this, so you can have a look at it. If you do want to have further conversations about ideas or questions or any of the evolved, there's a couple of, there's my name and Andrew Fitzgibbon's name. We're more than happy to talk with you about ideas and opportunities for the future. In terms of process, the public exhibition period closes on Tuesday, May the 6th, and we then start sifting through all the input and submissions and ideas we receive from the community, from yourselves, and start workshopping with councillors about how to move forward, both with the broader ideas in the precinct plan and with the lot 12, to how to sort of lock in a real positive future for the arts and industry estate.
We've had no more questions come in. We'll give it a couple of, oh, here we go. Just give it a moment to.
Okay, the question is, what are the EPA noise and use guidelines in relation to site and its proximity to housing? Okay, the state government have a noise policy put out by the old EPA, as it used to be, called industrial, I think it's called the industrial noise policy. In effect, it links definitions of what's called intrusive noise to the background noise of the particular area in question. And so the sort of rule of thumb that's quoted quite often through there is intrusive noise is noise that is more than 5 decibels above the general background noise of the area. And so it's a little more complicated in terms of how you measure all those things, but that's in a nutshell what it is. And so there are guidelines and requirements for how people go about their business so that they don't generate intrusive noise for others, basically. What other usable vacant land does council have in the Bay? in the wider Byron area. I'm assuming you're asking. Off the top of my head, I don't have that information. In terms of the arts and industry estate, the council-owned parcels of land are, as we talked about, Lot 12 and the depot site, both of which are held as operational land. So it's basically just land that council owns rather than community land, which is set aside for public sort of purposes and public recreation. So they're the only two sites that council have in the arts and industry estate. Indicative built form layout. Lot 12 shows, Lot 12 shows pedestrian connection to Centennial via private land. How is that possible? Well, at the moment, it's not possible without strong cooperation with those landowners. It's put forward as an idea for discussion and conversation. It certainly wouldn't be something that council would be seeking to impose upon private landowners in any way. So it's an idea that may have some traction at some stage if there are discussions to be had with those landowners, if there is any willingness to look at options and opportunities and creative ways in which such a thing might be achieved. But the point to stress is there's nothing in this plan that would look to impose those kind of requirements on private landowners. Why were those landowners not asked? Some of them were, not all of them were, I acknowledge that. And again, this is kind of a starting point for conversation. It's not an end point in any way.
So that appears to be all the questions that we've had. That was that so far.
Yeah. So yeah, I suppose the real important message there is there's lots of discussion to be had with the community and with individual landowners. This is, as I say, the start of a process. It's by no means the end of a process. For example, in terms of the one-way Centennial Circuit trial, there has been some previous discussions with landowners, fairly minimal. Before anything is implemented out there, there needs to be, and there will be, more discussion with affected landowners. And as we go on, looking at what ideas may have merit and what may not, lots of those discussions will have to happen as well. When will we know if the depot will move is the next question. I haven't got a time frame for you. As I said, there was the beginning of investigation into the potential for alternate sites. There is a resolution on council's books to undertake that investigation. It's being coordinated through council's infrastructure services division, who are the owners of that asset. And look, I don't have a time frame for that and how much of a priority it is or isn't, I'm afraid.
No further questions. Anybody got a question they'd like to pop in? That's it.
Okay, look, thank you for your time, and apologies in this COVID world we couldn't be out and about talking face to face, which is always a strong preference. And last question, could we make it a priority because we'd like to see a cultural precinct there? That is an option for council. In terms of where to from here, we would be reporting all submissions back to the elected council. We haven't got a definite time for that yet because we don't know how many submissions we need to deal with, but when we report back, there'll be a range of issues to discuss and provide options on. which will include options for consideration of those key sites. And that would be an opportunity for council to think about, discuss and talk about, potentially lock in how much of a priority they want to give to those kind of things. How can we get involved is a question. First of all, please drop us an email. Through the website, there's the contact piece. Let us know your thoughts, let us know your ideas. However brief or long-winded they may wish to be, we don't have a preference either way. As long as if you have ideas or have preferences, let us know and we will move forward and look at them all. There's a suggestion there. Please lobby your councillors for your preferred outcomes. Our councillors are always keen to hear from the community and their preferences to assist them in making important decisions. They will be making some important decisions about the arts and industry estate. So that opportunity is there to help them with that.
Go back on the screen. There's a request for to put the email addresses up again. So I'll just go back one screen and write those down there.
So hopefully
all of our contact details are also available on the Your Say page.
Yep.
So you can visit there.
Yep. So the more the merrier. We really are keen to get everyone's ideas, because we don't for a moment think we've got all the answers to all the question or all the good ideas that could really make the arts and industry estate the fabulous place we know it can be. So thank you very much. Really appreciate your patience with us in playing with this in a technological way rather than a face-to-face way. Feel free to get in contact and till next time.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing your submissions.